Oh, it's still cold. We're gonna try something kind of different today. I'm gonna be honest, I've kind of struggled for motivation and inspiration lately. So in order to try and boost that, I'm gonna gamify photography. So today's game, we're gonna be shooting JPEG only. And of course I'm gonna be on the Fuji X-T4, shoots beautiful JPEGs and all the film simulations. And my challenge for today is that I'm gonna do all of my processing in terms of the eventual image outcome, the way it looks and everything, in camera. I'm only gonna shoot JPEGs. We're gonna hopefully use this as a chance to really sort of study what I'm trying to take pictures of. And it might even bring some benefits and improvements to my photography game. But one thing's for sure, I won't be losing time editing these images, which is what always delays a lot of video releases. So, JPEG only. Let's have a wander. I'm on the 16 to 80 for the moment. It's an okay lens. Optically, I think it's great. For video, it's nice and stable, but it's not parfocal, and that's a bit of an issue. But photos, I think it would be all right for photos. I have also got the trusty 35mm f2 in the bag as well. But for the moment, I'm going to stick with a 16 to 80 f4 and see how we do with that. It's a little bit windy, by the way. It's still grey. It's been grey in London for the last 6 weeks or so, along with my mood. So of course Fujifilm are known for their film simulations, and in the camera there's quite a few settings which will apply to the JPEGs. Sometimes I do leave them on for raw recording as well, and it has no benefit to the end output, but it's quite nice to just view through the viewfinder with it. But anyway, for JPEG it's going to have a benefit. So first of all, I'm actually going to apply a little bit of a grain, just so we get some nice sort of like grit to the image. And I'm going to leave the color chrome effect off. If I'm honest, I haven't actually experienced that before, and I don't want to mess it all up. I can set my dynamic range to a limited factor if I like. I'm going to play around with that and see how it works. But something that's really interesting I found is the tone curve. So I can adjust the curve, so I can bring my highlights up or down, and I can affect my shadows. So I could add some contrast with some curves directly into my JPEG. I might apply a little bit and just see how that looks, just ever so slight. So I've also got settings for color, sharpness, ISO, noise reduction, clarity. I'm going to leave these as 0 for the moment, and I will adjust and see how they go as things change. And yeah, they something fun to play with within the camera. You don't really see this on many other brands. In quite as much detail, which is nice to see. And probably the most important thing we'll be working with will be the film simulation. A few different options here. A turn is quite nice for a very subtle look on things, but classic chrome works best for me in the style that I enjoy the most. The viewfinder looks really blue. Have you noticed that?
No.
Yeah, the difference, man. The viewfinder looks really blue in comparison to the screen. You can already tell I've added too much contrast. Mm-hmm. So I'm of course going to be using a lot of the settings in camera, and I think I'm going to spend a lot of my time playing with the exposure comp here, because obviously I'm not shooting raw, so I can't adjust anything in post. It's all going to be mostly with this, and probably my aperture control. I think I'm going to leave my ISO at auto for the most part, and my shutter at auto, and I may just adjust these as the time comes a little bit later when it gets a bit darker. But yeah, a lot of time on this. Are you going to join me with JPEG challenge as well?
I suppose so.
Sorry, I've taken the X-T4 today.
It's okay, I like my XE3.
It likes you back.
Normal and raw?
Yeah, if you want raw so that you've got a backup as well, you can do that. Alright, here's the first hiccup. So we've got the options here of fine or normal for JPEG. Immediately I thought fine meant higher quality, and you're saying you think normal's higher quality, and it's just triggered Because when you said, because fine is like, oh, it's just fine.
That's fine.
It's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas normal is like, oh, it's a normal. Whereas I was looking, it's like, oh no, that's fine. Like that's
But also the menu.
like a fine wine, you know?
The menu is going fine, normal, fine and raw, normal and raw.
Well,
raw.
that was what confused me as well, because I was like, okay, you'd think it could go on of two ways. It could progressively get better, or it could progressively downgrade.
Normal and raw.
Normal.
That's where I'm going.
Okay, so I'm going to go normal, and you're doing normal and raw as a backup. So you have got the option, and on a camera such as the X-T4 and XH1, you actually have 2 memory card slots. So if you want, you could put one memory card dedicated to JPEGs, and you could set the other memory card dedicated to RAWs. What I do actually on the X-T4 is I have one memory card for video and the other one for photos, because we do use this for vlogging on the Jelly channel. Which, by the way, we've got a number of vlogs in the backlog that we're going to be editing. Ellie, when do you think you'll be editing those?
This weekend.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully one will be up next week.
All right. Well,
Hopefully.
vlogs on Jelly. Feeling a lot more motivated putting vlogs there than I am here at the moment, but we're working on it. All right. Quick Google, because the internet is brilliant. Fine is the highest quality, so it is like a fine wine. Go for those finer details, not like, oh, it's just fine. How you feeling? Fine.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't know what's coming out with.
Fine. Fuji images normal enough. Whilst we're talking fine versus normal, I've actually just done 2 shots. One fine, the first one fine, the second one normal. And we can compare the difference between the two. So I'm going to throw these on the screen now, and we'll do a little bit of pixel peeping side by side. Hopefully, if we're looking at it now, the fine one, zoomed in, should have less compression and should be a noticeable better quality than the normal one between those 2 shots. One of the first things I'm recognizing when shooting JPEG only is the perspective, the verticals, because obviously in Lightroom you can just edit and you can transform the verticals, you can correct the perspective and the distortion. I can't do that, and that's one of the things that I edit almost all of the time in my images, is correcting those verticals. Sorry, it's very windy right now. But yeah, I can't adjust those verticals, so I've got to get the verticals right in camera.
Do you know what another fun game be?
Yep, go for it.
Is you're only allowed to take one shot of your image, because you can do multiple and check.
Just one, yeah.
Yeah, you can just do what, you only have one go.
Likewise, other ideas I've had of gamifying things are to only have a limited memory card, and I'm talking like a gigabyte memory card, or to have limited number of shots, in the same way that if you're shooting film you've only got, say, 36 exposures. Something like that, and maybe tape up your screen so you can't actually see the results. Yeah, different ideas. So we're on Fleet Street, which, if you didn't know, by the way, Fleet Street is famous historically for typography and newspapers. This is where all of the sort of printing presses used to be, and all the sort of major newspapers. And yeah, it all kind of stems from typographic printing presses, which also, if you want to go back even further, that's actually historically very Jewish, which is kind of an interesting thing. And I remember I came on a college trip to a printing press somewhere around here, and it was fascinating. I loved it so much. Now, of course, everything's all out east, and it's not really done here anymore. It's in eastern areas of London, bigger areas, not as expensive. And yeah, Fleet Street is. I don't think there's any major newspaper on Fleet Street anymore, but they did all used to be around here. Oh my God, Ellie, what is this weather? Should have brought a hat. Should have brought a hat. I must admit, I'm a little bit surprised by this, but I am rather enjoying a wide-angle lens. That's new for me. It's yeah, it's kind of refreshing seeing things through a much wider perspective. And usually one of the things that I don't like about wide-angle lenses is the distortion, the incorrect perspective on stuff. So I'm trying my best to be as critical on keeping the verticals vertical and not adding distortion on things, but 16mm, which is what the lens is at its shortest length on here, is proven quite tasty. I'm enjoying it. I'm not sure how I feel about filming with a wide angle such as that, but yeah, it's coming out quite nice for the photos. Definitely feels like a fresh perspective for me. I'm usually more comfortable around the 35mm, 50mm mark, depending on what crop factor you've got. So yeah, surprising myself. Okay, oh my god, it's still windy. Still very windy. After a little intermission that you'd have just seen at a place called Humble Chicken, which Ellie, my little humble chicken, that was a great find. I didn't realise until about 3/4 of the way through it. They only opened yesterday. So yeah, well done. Thank you.
Fresh on the scene.
Good little spot that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're in the Soho area, Humble Chicken, definitely recommend. Good for yakitori. I will say though, it's gonna be maybe twice as expensive what you get yakitori in Japan. But when you can't travel to Japan, of course, spend the money on food. Very good. Good drinks as well. Very good drinks. Anyway. So to round out today, so it's been pretty enjoyable getting images on just JPEG only. I'm intrigued to know how they're going to look. I'm going to spend some time just kind of looking over and analysing them, because one of the things that's quite interesting, especially when you shoot RAW, is a lot of the processing and the view of that RAW comes down to the software. And I think I made my peace with this a few years back, that different software will interpret raw images differently, and that may be a little bit of a surprise to some people, that if you shoot raw from a number of different cameras but you view it in Lightroom or you view it in Capture One or use some other software, all of that software will interpret it differently. And that sounds bizarre, but it is what it is. So yeah, seeing the JPEGs is seeing what the manufacturers are looking to produce and their sort of intended picture quality, picture image and color and everything like that. So this is a little bit of an experiment to see what it's like to shoot in JPEG on Fuji and fully experience the Fuji colors and everything. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, hopefully you've enjoyed the images, and maybe it's inspired you. If you're feeling a little bit dull and a bit uninspired of things, just gamify your photography. Go and turn something into a bit of a challenge and create limits, create guidelines, and go and set yourself some boundaries in an area that is maybe unboundaried. I don't know what I'm saying there, but set yourself some sort of limitation or guidelines that will inspire you to create something. It's no secret that I've just not felt inspired or motivated over the last year or so, and I want to share that with you, that I'm trying different ways to fight that and combat it. So yeah, hopefully this helps in some way, and I will catch you in another video real soon. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you later. Cheers, bye bye. You want some shahan?
Were they northern?
Huh?
Were they northern?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Chicken.
Chicken.